Back off. Elara Vance's voice cut through the smoky, bluesy thrum of the Blue Note bar. Her twin sister Lyra sat beside her, outwardly composed but wound tight, every muscle ready to spring. It had been meant as a quiet Friday night, a simple drink after a brutal week. Instead, the second the twins walked in, they drew the gaze of three men whose badges still gleamed at their belts, the reek of whiskey mingling with cheap cologne. Captain Darius Thorne swaggered first, looming large, his bloodshot eyes fastening on Elara like she was prey. "Or what, sweetheart?" he smirked, leaning close. "You gonna make me?" His voice rose, drowning out chatter. Behind them, Officer Ben Cassidy slid behind Lyra, gripping her chair like he owned it. "Just being friendly," he drawled with venom. Officer Finn Riley stumbled after, his laugh sharp, his words slurred. "Check those curves," he sneered, sketching an hourglass in the air. "Twins, huh? Double the trouble." Uneasy silence spread. A woman grabbed her coat and fled. Marco Rossi, the bartender, froze mid-wipe, jaw set. He'd seen this too many times. Lyra's hand tightened around her glass. She knew men like this drunk on power, shielded by the Emerald City Police Department. Elara straightened, refusing to flinch. "Last warning," she snapped. "Walk away." Thorne dragged a stool across the floor, straddling it with deliberate menace. "Cute? You think you're in charge? You forgot whose city this is." Cassidy's hands shifted to Lyra's shoulders. She stiffened. "Don't touch me," she said, voice icy. The men laughed ugly, cruel sounds that silenced the room. Marco edged closer, with a tray of glasses. "Gentlemen, maybe?" "Shut it, Marco," Thorne barked, not turning. "Before I check your paperwork again." Marco retreated, jaw tight. Finn staggered into the table, spilling their drinks. He leaned toward Lyra, breath sour with whiskey. "Pretty thing like you, dressed like that, asking for attention." Elara's hand brushed her clutch. Lyra caught her eye, a near-invisible shake of the head. "Not yet." Thorne's smirk grew. "Got something in that purse you want to share?" "Just my keys," Elara said smoothly. Cassidy squeezed Lyra's shoulders harder. "No respect for authority. We can fix that, can't we, boys?" Their laughter grated through the stillness. From a dark booth, a young man lifted his phone, discreetly recording. Finn spotted it, but Thorne's sharp whistle stopped him. Later, Thorne leaned in. "Here's how this works. You apologize, buy us drinks, beg nicely, and maybe we forget this disrespect." Elara set her glass down, voice steady. "Here's what's actually going to happen. You take your hands off my sister, step back, and walk out. Because right now, you're making the biggest mistake of your careers." Sounded like a threat, Thorne growled. "Ben, Finn, you hear a threat?" "Loud and clear," Finn slurred. "Definitely," Cassidy sneered, fingers digging into Lyra. Thorne's voice dropped. "Threatening officers is serious. Maybe we haul you downtown, teach you manners." Their laughter broke what little restraint remained. The twins exchanged a look, silent communication honed by years. The air snapped taut, ready to break. "Back up!" Elara shouted, her voice cutting like steel. "You're drunk, and you disgrace that badge." Thorne's smirk twisted into malice. "Disgrace? You strut in here shaking what your mama gave you, and we're the disgrace?" He lunged. A sharp crack rang out as his hand struck Lyra's backside. His laughter split the silence. Lyra shot up, fury blazing. "You son of a," Lyra lunged, but Cassidy slammed her into the wall, his forearm crushing her collarbone, the impact stealing her breath. "What's wrong?" Thorne mocked, looming over Lyra. "Can't take a compliment from an officer?" Lyra smacked his hand away, voice trembling with rage. "Touch me again, and you'll pull back a stump." Finn giggled, pulling out handcuffs. The metallic click reverberated through the stillness. "That's definitely a threat." The crowd shrank deeper into seats. A couple bolted for the door. Cassidy pressed Elara harder against the wall, sneering in her ear. "Maybe we should take this private. Teach you respect." His hand twisted in her hair. Thorne circled Lyra, predator to prey, seizing her wrist and twisting until she gasped. "We could have had fun, but now you've hurt our feelings. Want me to do it, Cap?" Finn asked, cuffs raised. "Ladies first," Thorne snarled, yanking Lyra close, his lips at her ear. "You don't talk back to cops in Easton City." The steel snapped shut. The cuffs bit deep into Lyra's wrists. Thorne shoved her down hard. Her knees struck the sticky floor. Elara gasped as Cassidy twisted her arms behind her. the wooden panel scraping her cheek. All that sass, Thorne gloated, circling slowly, means nothing when you're in cuffs. The bar was silent, save for ragged breaths, the rattle of steel, and the triumphant laughter of three men drunk on power. The air inside the Blue Note grew thick with dread, every eye flicking between the officers and the two sisters pinned to the wall. Marco, the bartender, tried one last desperate plea. "They haven't done anything wrong. Let me call them a cab." His voice trembled, but it carried across the smoky room. Thorne spun on him like a striking snake, grabbing Marco by the collar and slamming him hard against the bar. Bottles rattled on the shelves, the glass chiming in the sudden silence. "One more word," Thorne snarled, "and I'll have this place shut down faster than you can say health code violation. How many undocumented workers you got in that kitchen, huh?" The venom in his voice sent a ripple of unease through the patrons. Marco froze, but his apron pocket glowed faintly red. The phone inside was still recording, its quiet witness unnoticed by the captain. Thorne shoved him away with a sneer and turned back to the sisters. Cassidy gripped Alara, yanking her toward the door, while Finn hauled Lyra up, the handcuffs digging cruelly into her wrists. Their humiliation burned hotter than the pain. People stared but said nothing, fear clamping their voices. A woman near the door tried to raise her phone, but Finn lunged and smashed it to the floor, glass scattering like broken silence. They shoved the sisters forward. Lyra stumbled, but steadied herself, her years of training screaming for patience. Her mind raced, calculating. Then her fingers brushed the familiar weight in her pocket, the badge case. Hooking it with 2 fingers, she slipped it out and let it drop. The soft thud echoed across the bar's wooden floor. The silver shield caught the dim light, its engraving sharp, undeniable. Conversations died. Heads turned. A collective gasp rose. Lyra's voice, calm and cutting, broke the stillness. "Federal Marshal Service." The words landed like a hammer. Phones came out again, this time braver, faster. Alara straightened as Cassidy's grip faltered. Her voice lashed like a whip. "You are assaulting federal agents." For the first time all night, the 3 officers froze. Thorne's smirk cracked, Cassidy's hands slackened, Finn's grin collapsed into panic. Marco stepped from behind the bar, his phone now raised openly. "You heard them. Everyone did. You laid hands on U.S. federal agents." Thorne tried to laugh, the sound brittle. He kicked the badge case across the floor. "That little card don't mean a thing here. This is my town, my rules." But his bravado fell flat. The crowd was no longer afraid. A woman stood tall, phone held high. "I got it all on video," she declared. Others echoed, "Me too." Dozens of red recording lights pierced the gloom. The balance had shifted. Lyra's eyes locked on Finn. Her voice burned with steady fire. "Every second of this is evidence." Sirens wailed outside, growing louder, closer. Red and blue lights flared through the bar windows, washing the room in a pulsing glow. The doors burst open, the sound like a final verdict. Federal marshals stormed in, weapons drawn, authority unmistakable. "Captain Darius Thorne, Officers Cassidy and Riley, you are under arrest for assault on federal agents, unlawful detention, and abuse of authority." In that instant, Thorne's swagger collapsed. His wrists were yanked back, steel clamping around them tighter than he'd ever put on another. Cassidy went pale, hauled forward by 2 marshals, shame replacing arrogance. Finn whimpered as he was forced to the ground, panic hollowing out his drunken defiance. The patrons erupted not in fear, but in something fierce and liberating. Phones captured every moment as the predators, once untouchable, were dragged out in chains. Cheers and shouts followed them into the night. Alara and Lyra stood tall, despite the bruises and cuffs still biting at their wrists. In the eyes of the crowd, they were no longer victims, but the true embodiment of authority and justice. The hunters had become the hunted, their empire of fear crumbling in a single night. The Blue Note would never forget what had happened within its walls.